So today we will learn about the static testing. See, in our industry, when we are performing the testing, so we have multiple things like we can perform it at document level itself. We can perform it at the we can say code is not started and we are just checking the things, everything is fine or not before starting the code. So that also will come under the testing part. It's not like just the software code is ready and then we are performing the testing for the particular application. So it's not like that. We can start at the document level itself. So in this way, we have multiple kinds of testing. Like in second chapter, now we have learned about the multiple levels of testing and also multiple types of testing. Today we'll learn about different approaches, like at what level we can start the testing. So this is the main thing. So now we'll be starting the static testing. What is that? So this chapter provides an introduction to an important area of software testing, static techniques. Static techniques software without executing it. So whenever you'll get this kind of thing now, what technique we are following without executing the code. So answer will be static testing technique. Okay. They are therefore important because they can find errors and defects before code is executed and therefore earlier in the life cycle of a project, making corrections easier and cheaper to achieve than for same defects found during test execution. Review techniques are central to the static testing approach, and in this chapter we'll look at the alternative types of review and how they will fit with the test process that was defined in chapter 2. Okay, so now in static techniques, mainly before executing the code, whatever testing we are performing, this will come under the static testing. One thing. And second thing is review is the part of which process. So it's the part of static testing or static techniques. Okay. Now, uh, they are having some self-assessment question as well, so you can go through later. I will share this. Hmm. Static testing techniques are those techniques that test software without executing the code. This includes both the testing of work products other than code, typically requirement or specification documents, and the testing of code without actually executing it. So this is the main punchline for this, which I already told you. Like we are performing it at the document level, not at the code level. Okay. Now, so see, what's the benefit of it? uh, Actually, when we found the defects or when we found the gaps in the requirement document or the other document before code is started, so it will also save our cost as well as the time as well as the manpower, we can say, because we have uh, already check the we can say fault in the document itself. Then when we develop the code now, then definitely it will be smooth, and after that when we perform the testing, then there will be less chances to getting the bugs, or we can say less number of chances to miss the particular defect or bug. So that's why it is very important to perform the testing at the document level itself. Okay. So the same they are showing. Important as cost and time saving are, though there are also other important benefits of finding defects early in the life cycle. Among them, the following: development productivity can be improved and time scales reduced because the correction of defects in early work product will help to ensure that those work products are clear and unambiguous. This should enable a developer to move more quickly through the process of writing code, which I told you, like if we'll find the defects in the document level itself or at the architecture diagram level itself before starting the code, so definitely it will save the time and cost both, and it will be easy to write the code to the developer, because they do not need to write it and then we will find the say defects at the code level, then they will again fix it. They will write it in a first phase itself correctly. Okay, so also if defects are removed before they become executable code, there will be fewer errors to find and fix during test execution. The same thing which I explained. Testing cost and time, which I already explained to you, like why time and cost will be saved, because we will find the errors at the starting level itself. Now, by reviewing the code and removing defects before they become failures, the tester can move more swiftly through test execution. Reduction in time, lifetime cost can be achieved because fewer defects in the final software ensure that ongoing software support cost will be lower. So that's the same thing. It will save the cost as well, because we'll find in the starting stage. Improved communication results as authors and their peers discuss and refine any ambiguous content discovered during review to ensure that all involved understand exactly what is being delivered. Okay, so this is like uh, how we are doing this static testing. So for that, but mainly in at industry level or any company, we are conducting a kind of meeting in which we are reviewing the documents whatever we have for this, for that software or that project or that product. So when you will be having that meeting, now there are multiple persons involved in that meeting to review those documents. So in later in this chapter we'll see how many persons are there and what is the role of each person, okay, to review those documents, and what are the techniques which we are doing as the review process. So this is the kind of static testing. Okay, now uh hmm, this I have already explained. Now they are explaining like what kind of defects we'll get in the review process. So deviation from standards, either internally defined and managed or regulatory legally defined by parliament or perhaps a trade organization. Requirement defects, for example, the requirements are ambiguous or they are missing elements. For example, a requirement is partially complete. It is not particularly fully defined in that requirement document, then definitely we'll get the uh, that kind of defect in the document itself. Secondary, maybe there are some spelling mistakes uh, in the document, so we can find it at the requirement meeting itself. Okay, now design defects, as I explained it to you, for example, we are creating the diagrams for the planning, or for the code we are before starting the code, or we are creating the architecture diagram, so we can review it and find the mistakes in the diagram itself or the doc. 1 minute, let me admit, Swati. So we can find the mistakes at the document itself, for example, in the requirement document, or we can say we can find it at the uh, architecture diagram itself. So in that way, in under static techniques, we can find the defects or bugs at the document level. Okay. Now we'll see what is review process. Okay. So as I explained, like review is a kind of meeting which we are conducting in our organizations or in our company to discuss whatever documents we have for that project or product. So whenever this kind of question will come, like review is the part of which process or which technique, so answer will be always static techniques. Okay. Now Review process can vary widely in their level of formality, where formality relates to the level of structure and documentation associated with the activity. Some types of reviews are completely informal, while others are very formal. So there are two types of review. First is informal and another one is formal. So as the name suggests, in informal, you do not need to document it after finding the defects. Maybe you are having very short timeline and you just have to review those documents and you just have to start the code because of the project timeline. So this kind of review will be called as the informal review. And for the formal review, we will properly conduct the meeting, document everything whatever we have discussed and whatever the defects or bugs we have found at the document level. So these kinds of things we will document somewhere. So this kind of review is called as the formal review. So these all things you will see later in this chapter. Okay. Hmm. Now, the maturity of the development process, the more mature the process is, the more formal reviews tend to be. So that I explained it to you, like whatever you will like invest if your time in this kind of meetings, and if you are properly or formally reviewing everything now, then definitely your team is more mature. Okay. Now, legal or regulatory requirements. These are used to govern the software development activities in certain industry, notably in safety critical areas such as railway signaling, and determine what kinds of review should take place. So they are saying like it is dependent on the type of application and type of work as well. For example, if it's a kind of safety standard project, or if it's kind of related to medical or health, then definitely the review process is more, it should be more mature, and we should discuss everything in detail. Or we can say if we are developing a kind of application related to food, then definitely we have to check all the aspects. We have to take the regulatory take the permission from regulatory authority, everything. So in this, always we have to follow this formal review process in this kind of projects. Okay. Now, the need for audit trail. Formal review process ensure that it is possible to trace backwards throughout the software development life cycle. So we are having the software development life cycle in which we are having these stages, like from requirement to final code delivered. So in that they are saying like formal review process, we are just ensuring like we can always follow at any level, and we can backwards trace that from the initial to final stage, because we are preparing the formal document, so we can review it anytime. But an informal review we cannot do this, because we are not providing the much time, and we are just discussing the things and starting the code. Okay. Now, reviews can also have a variety of objectives, where the term review objective identifies the main focus of review. Typical review objectives include finding defects, gaining understanding, generating discussion, and decision making by consensus. So what they are saying, like reviews can, whenever we are doing or conducting the review meeting, so what is the purpose of that? Firstly, we are understanding about the project and the requirement. So this is the uh, gaining understanding. Now, what we are doing, we are finding the defects in the document level. So what should be the purpose? Finding defects at the document level. Now we are generating multiple discussions. We are actually providing our feedback also in those meetings, which is important for each and every person who is there in that particular meeting. So if many people will be involved in the starting stage itself, then definitely we are building a smooth product or smooth application, because there will be multiple minds when we are reading those documents. There will be multiple, we can say, feedback, and maybe some things you are not able to understand, then you will ask at the starting level itself. Maybe some things are not correctly mentioned in those documents, then you can provide your feedback, like yes, we can correct it, then only we can proceed ahead for the code. So these kind of things we can do at the review meetings. Now, what is basic review process? Hmm. The document under review is studied by the reviewers. Reviewers identify issues or problems and inform the author either verbally or in a documented form, which might be as formal as raising a defect report or as informal as annotating the document under review. So what they are saying, see, in the review process, there is one person which whom we called as the author. Author is the main person who is conducting and whom we have to report everything. For example, like if you are reviewing that document and if you find any gap or any kind of requirement, so maybe you can directly tell it to him in terms of direct meeting, or maybe in the formal process you have to document it, like these kind of defects I have found in these 5 pages of that document. Or you can just like send that document to that author. So whenever you will be asking in the STQB exam who is the main person in that review meeting, so he is always as author. Just remember this thing. This kind of question you might be get. Okay. Now, the author decides on any action to take in response to the comments and updates the document accordingly. So it is the responsibility of author to decide and take the decision. Whenever you'll get this kind of question, you always have to choose the answer as author. Reviewers are not deciding, not taking any decision. Final decision will be always taken by the author only for that particular document or whatever the defects you have defined. So it's not your responsibility. You just have to convey your information, or you just have to convey whatever you have in your mind, but the final decision will be always made by the author. Now, this basic process is
Uh,
always.
Sorry,
Mhm.
one question. What are the other roles in this process? Like there's an author, there's a reviewer, and who else are there?
So author is the main, and
Mm.
reviewers are like we can say the developers, testers, like whoever are involved in that meeting. Maybe stakeholders are also present, but in here they are explaining these two roles only. Okay, so
Okay.
author is the main, and reviewers are the other ones who are involved in that meeting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, the basic process is always present, but in the more formal reviews, it is elaborated to include additional stages and more attention to documentation and measurement. So, in formal review, we always have to document everything that they are saying. Okay. Now, this is the activities of the formal review. So, reviews at the more formal and of the spectrum, such as technical reviews and inspections, share certain characteristics that differentiate them from the less formal reviews, of which walkthroughs are a typical example. Now, we are having different type of formal reviews, which we will see later in this chapter. Now, the following list explains the key stages in more detail. This diagram is very important, so you just have to remember everything in the order. Okay, so you will definitely get the question from this diagram in the ISTQB exam. You will get this type of question like, these are the stages of formal review, please choose the correct option. So maybe you will get four options similar but not in the correct order, so you have to remember the names as well as the order. Okay, this will be starting from the planning. The next stage is kickoff. After that, we'll be having checking entry criteria, then individual preparation, then noting incidents, then review meeting, examine, rework, fixing defects, follow up, and checking exit criteria. So there are so many stages, but anyways, you have to remember because you'll get the question definitely from this. So uh, to remember this, just follow the approach is like, first, whatever we are starting at any stage in our life as well, first will be the meeting, the kind of planning. For example, if you're doing anything in your home, firstly you're discussing with your family members. So what you are doing, you're making the planning. For example, you have to buy a car or buy a scooty. So what you will do, firstly you will plan, see, I have this kind of money, and this money I'll be needing. So I will make a plan like that. So this will be the first stage, which is planning. The next will be, you will discuss, you will make the plan in your mind and then you will discuss with your family members. So this is a kind of kick-off meeting. So the second will be kick-off. Now what you will do, you will check the entry criteria, how much money should we have to the each family members. For example, you are studying in a school or in 11th or 12th class, and at that time you're not doing any kind of job and you're not having any money. So you will definitely take the help from other family members. Or you are studying in a college level, then also you are having a minimum amount of money and you are needing that kind of scooty or for your college purpose, or uh, to going somewhere. So what you will do, you will check the entry criteria, like you are having these many family members, and from each family member how much money you can take. So this is a kind of checking entry criteria. Now after checking the entry criteria, what every person will do, they will individually prepare, like how much money I can provide to my daughter or my son to buy this scooty. So it is a kind of individual preparation. Okay, so these four terms you can remember like that. First will be, you will make the plan in your mind, so this is planning. And after that, you will do the kickoff kind of meeting with every person. So this is the kickoff. And after that, you next will be checking the entry criteria. So what in that you will it's a kind of you will check how much money have each member. So it's checking entry criteria. Now they will individually prepare to provide you the money. So fourth stage will be individual preparation. Now after that, the fifth stage you have to remember, like noting incidents. So they have individually prepared, and maybe there will be sudden situation will come in the family and they will not provide you the money. So the fifth stage will be noting incidents. Now after incident, what they will do, they will again when that incident will be over, so they will again uh, review the things to provide you the money. So after that, the stage will be that review meeting. And after review meeting, you have to remember the next thing is examine and rework. So review meeting R, then E and R. So review meeting RER. Next will be examine and other will be rework. Next you have to remember is like uh, from the keyword incident. So it will be fixing defects. It definitely it will be related to defects. So RER and then fixing defects. Next will be related to the keyword F only. So fixing defects and then follow up. Last, what you will do? Last will be always related to the keyword exit. So fixing defects, follow up and checking exit criteria. So in this way, that approach I have followed to remember these things. Now it's your call. Like in that way you can remember. Okay. So you are understood now whatever I explained.
Yeah, we understood.
Hmm. Okay. Now, reviews like weddings are enhanced by including something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. In this case, something old would be an experienced practitioner, something new would be new or inexperienced team member, something borrowed would be someone from a different team, something blue would be the dissenter who is hard to please. At the earliest stage of the process, a review leader must be identified. This is the person who will coordinate all of the review activity. So now we will see what are the typical roles under this review process. So firstly, you have to remember these stages, and after that, we have to check the role. So you will get the question related to that author, which I explained in previous slide, and you will get the question related to this diagram definitely, like what are the formal stages or what are the stages of formal review, and you have to choose the correct option in order. Now allocating roles. Okay, so this meeting is remaining for 10 minutes. After that, just join the same call. Okay. Hmm. Allocating roles. Each reviewer is given a role to provide them with a unique focus on a document under review. Someone in a tester role might be checking for testability and clarity of definition, while someone in a user role might look for simplicity and a clear relationship to business values. This approach ensures that although all reviewers are working on the same document, each individual is looking as at it from a different perspective. So they are saying like the same document or the same page, everyone will look according to their perspective. For example, tester will review that document as a testing point of view, whatever they are thinking and whatever approaches they have their mind. While for example someone is at the stakeholder level, so what he will do, he will review it as the simplest way, or maybe you're having some kind of architecture diagram to review. So whatever you have in your mind, you will be able to understand from that architecture diagram. But the code person who knows well for that in terms of coding, he will definitely find the more gaps in that architecture diagram. So these kind of things are depends on that, like as per the minds and as per the person perspective, they will review that particular document. Defining the entry and exit criteria, especially for the most formal review types, example inspection. Okay, so we are defining the entry and exit criteria in our test plan document itself, correct? In the same way, we have to define in the formal review also, like the entry criteria and the exit criteria, so that they are calling it as inspection under a static technique. Okay. Now, selecting the parts of documents to be reviews, not always required. This will depend on the size of a document. A large document may need to be split into smaller parts and each part reviewed by a different person to ensure the whole document is reviewed fully. So it is like hmm, they are saying like selecting the parts of documents to be reviewed, not always required. So maybe if the project is very large, then definitely you will be having multiple documents. So you can divide the document in the parts to review it. Or maybe the project is very small and you do not need to read it that document in the parts. You can read it in one go only. So it's the approach which mainly the main person or the author is deciding, like what we need to do in that case. Do we need to divide it, or we can read it as it is? Now this hmm, this we have already learned. Now we are checking each and every stage here, so they are just defining what we are doing. So after planning, we'll be having this kickoff. So kickoff meeting is like distributing documents, explaining the objectives, process and document to the participants, and checking entry criteria. See, we are checking the entry criteria in the kickoff meeting. Okay. So this kind of things maybe you will be asking. So just remember, like where we are checking the entry criteria in the kickoff meeting when author is distributing the documents to its peers or the participants now. Then in that meeting itself we are deciding the entry criteria. So this is the part of kickoff. This can be run as a meeting or simply by sending out the details to the reviewers. The method used will depend on timescales and the volume of information to pass on. A lot of information can be disseminated better by a meeting rather than expecting reviewers to read pages of text. So 70 to 80% in the kickoff stage, we are conducting a meeting. But at some times, maybe uh, if all the persons are not present in the same location, or there will be some kind of problems, then definitely uh, we cannot conduct the meeting at the physical level. So we are conducting it as a virtual. Or maybe if the author is not allowed to conduct the meeting, then they will be sending a kind of mail to review these documents and provide your comments in the same email. So that will be depends on the we can say author or the main person who is doing this kickoff. So this is the kickoff stage. Now after that we are having this review entry criteria. This stage is where the entry criteria agreed earlier are checked to ensure that they have been met, so that the review can continue. This is mainly used in the more formal review type, such as inspection. So always remember, inspection is a type of formal review, not the informal review. This is the first point. And second point is where we are checking the entry criteria in the kickoff meeting, in the kickoff stage. Third thing is review, and what is review entry criteria? So whatever we have decided in that kickoff, we are checking that entry criteria again to ensure that it should be correct. So this is the kind of review entry criteria, and this is mainly used in the more formal review type, such as inspection. So this is a kind of another meeting, inspection meeting we can say, where we are reviewing the entry criteria whatever we have decided in the kickoff meeting. Now, we'll be having individual preparation, work done by each of the participants on their own before the review meeting, which would include reading the source document, noting potential defect, questions, and comments. This is a key task and may actually be time boxed. Example, participants may be given 2 hours to complete the preparation. So, it's like individually we are preparing what is the what should be the work provided to each member by the author. They will review that particular document and provide their comments under the this individual preparation. So whatever the time box author is provided now, in that particular time we have to review the document whatever is provided to us. Noting incidents. In this stage, the potential defects, questions, and comments found during individual preparation are logged. So, noting incident is like uh, we are having the potential defects, whatever we have found in our document, whatever author is provided to us. So, in the noting incidents, what we'll do, the potential defects, questions, and comments, whatever we have found in the individual preparation, we will log those defects under this noting incident. So, as per the name, you will definitely get like when you have individually reviewed that document, then you will where you will log the defect at what stage. So, under noting incident, you will log those defects. Now we are having less than 1 minute remaining. Okay, so now we'll see this. What is review meeting? This may include discussion regarding any defects found or simply just a log of defects found. The more formal review types like inspection will have documented results or minutes. This the meeting participant may simply note defects for the author to correct. They might also make recommendations for handling or correcting the defects. The approach taken will have been decided at the kickoff stage so that all participants are aware of what is required of them. The decision as to which approach to take may be based on one or all of the following factors. So now in the review meeting, what everyone will do in the kickoff meeting, we have just discussed everything. After that, in the individual preparation, what we did in the individual preparation, we have like prepared everything by our own, and we have decided what we have to log. Under noting incidents, we have just provided the defects or logged the defects, whatever we have found under that particular document. Now, and in this review meeting, what we will do, we will provide our feedback, or we will provide the document for that defects, whatever we have found, and we will uh, like in the review meeting, we will provide our we can say um, our views as well, like to review. After reviewing that document, we have logged the defects. If any more things are remaining, whatever we want to share, then we will provide our thoughts in this review meeting. Okay, now the decision as to which approach to take may be based on one of or all of the following factors. Time available. If time is short, the meeting may only collect defects. Requirements of the author. If the author would like help in correcting defects, type of review. So what they are saying after in the review meeting, what is important, like the important factors are what are the time available. If we are having the short time, then definitely we'll conduct a short meeting. We will be having the time box meeting, and where we only collect the defects. We'll not discuss everything in detail. We will just collect the defects from everyone. So this will be the important factor. After that, requirements of the author. If the author would like help in correcting defects, for example, if we are having more time, then definitely author will review those defects in the same meeting, and after that he will provide his views like we can correct this defect. So this is a kind of depends on author. And next thing is type of review. In an inspection, only the collection of defects is allowed. There is never any discussion. So please remember this line. In the inspection, we are only collecting the defects. We are not doing any kind of discussion. So this is not fully true, but in terms of ISTQB, they are saying this thing, like in the inspection, we are just collecting the defects. We are not doing any discussion. Now, examine. This includes the recording of the physical meetings or tracking any group electronic communication. So, examine is like whatever physical meetings we have conducted, or whatever things we have decided. So, what we are doing, we are just recording those things in the examine phase. After that, we are having the rework. After the review meeting, the author will have a series of defects to correct. Correcting the defects is called rework. So the main punchline here is author will have a series of defects to correct. In the rework, what we'll do after the review meeting, author is having all the documents by its peers. So in this, what we do, we will correct the defects. In which phase? In the rework phase, we are correcting the defects. And correcting the defect is called as rework in this chapter. Now, we'll be having fixing defects. So as the name suggests, it is very simple. Here the author will be fixing defects that were found and agreed as requiring a fix. So whatever things are there in the static testing or the review meeting, now main key person is the author. So he will be collecting those defects, and after that he will be fixing those defects as in the document level. Hmm.
Uh, just a doubt, Nancy.
Yeah.
In the real life scenario, who is the actual author? Is it the business analyst, or is it who is the actual author?
Yeah, so in real time, like it depends on the we can say the stakeholders or the manager is deciding who will be the author. Maybe if business analyst is available, then definitely he will be the author. And if there is no role of business analyst in your team, then definitely he will be deciding one from the team to make the author. Or maybe if stakeholder is having more knowledge, then he or she should be also the author. So it will be decided from the higher management, like who will be the author.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hmm. Now, follow up. The review leader will check that the agreed defects have been addressed and will gather metrics such as how much time was spent on the review and how many defects were found. So, after everything is done, we have like provided the defects, author has corrected the defects in the document. Now, what we will do? We will have a kind of follow up meeting. So, in that follow up meeting, the review leader will check that the agreed defects have been addressed and will gather metrics such as how much time was spent on review and how many defects were found. The review leader will also check the exit criteria for more formal review types such as inspection to ensure that they have been met. So in the follow-up meeting, we'll be having the author and other team members. Apart from that, maybe from the we can say stakeholder team, will be having a review leader who will review everything is correctly documented or not, like the matrix after review meeting, how many defects we have found in those requirement document or the other documents whatever we have reviewed, and how much time it was taken, so that we can have the similar kind of project or similar kind of thing in the future. Then definitely we can review that document, and according to that uh, we will having the less number of time uh, in the next future work. Okay. Now next is checking the exit criteria. At this stage, the exit criteria defined at the start of the process are checked to ensure that all exit criteria have been met so that the review can be officially closed and finished. So, uh, just remember where we are closing the review process. The whole review process is closing under the last phase of the that diagram, which is checking the exit criteria. So whatever we have defined in the entry criteria, we have to check it under the checking exit criteria. Like every thing, whatever we have decided is properly closed or not. Now the question which you asked, Swati, what are the roles and responsibilities of in this review meeting now? So these are the particular roles. So it is like manager, moderator, author, reviewers, and scribe. So mainly you will get the question on this author and maybe for the scribe, like because it's a different keyword or different term which we will not identify when we see the question. So that's why they are asking these reviewers. We have already know like every person who is involved in the meeting. So now we'll learn about them in detail. The manager decides on what is to be reviewed if not already defined, ensures there is sufficient time allocated in the project plan for all of the required review activities, and determines if the review objectives have been met. Managers do not normally get involved in the actual review process unless they can add real value. Example, they have technical knowledge key to the review. So manager is like, we can say, the project manager in real time scenario. So what he'll do, he will just uh, he will just review the things in broad way. For example, he will just check the things like proper reviewers are available or not, or maybe the timeline, or maybe whatever should be the review activities. So he will just check these kind of things, and on a higher level, if he is having more technical knowledge and if he is having more idea, then he will be involving in the actual review process, otherwise not. Now we are having the second person, who is the moderator. The moderator is sometimes known as a review leader. Okay, so this is important, like who's moderator. uh, the moderator is sometimes known as review leader. So review leader and moderator will be same. Review leader is not the author, remember girls. Like review leader is different, author is different. Okay, and review leader and moderator will be same. So if there will be a question like maybe they will provide the that word like moderator, maybe they will provide the word as review leader. So both the things will be same. And what review leader or moderator will do, so you have to remember this. We have learned this now, follow up meeting. So follow up thing will be always done by this review leader or moderator. Okay. Hmm. This is the person who leads the review of the document or set of documents, including planning the review, running the meeting, and follow ups after the meeting. If necessary, the moderator may mediate between the various points of view and is often the person upon whom the success of review rests. The moderator will also make the final decision as to whether to release an updated document. So manager has reviewed like the higher level things, and after that moderator is the main person, or we can see he's a kind of review leader who will give the final kind of sign off for all the meetings from the starting to end. Now, who's author? The author is the writer or person with chief responsibility for the development of the documents to be reviewed. Okay, so he is the main person who is writing or who is checking all the documents. Uh, so there should be a question in your mind definitely, what is the difference between the author and the review leader? Okay, so author is the person actually who is writing that particular documents if that information is not available, but review leader never do that. Review leader only provide their feedback, will review the meetings, and he is the final person who will provide the final decision. But author is the person who will actually circulate that information and who will write the requirement document if it is not available. Okay, so the author is the writer or person with chief responsibility for the development of the document to be reviewed. The author will, in most instances, also take responsibility for fixing any agreed defects. So that information we have earlier seen, like we have found the defect in the document, but who's having the responsibility to fixing the defects? So it is not actually depends like author will fix those defects, but maybe in sometimes if no one is available, then it's the responsibility of author itself. So to write the document and to fix the defect in the document, the responsibility should be author only. Now reviewers are us. For example, these are the individual with a specific or technical or business background, also called checkers or inspectors, who after the necessary preparation identify and describe findings, example defects in the product under review. As discussed above, reviewers should be chosen to represent different perspectives and roles in the review process and take part in any review meetings. So reviewers are maybe the developers, testers, every person in that team will be involved in the review meeting to provide their views for that document. Now, who is a scribe or recorder? So scribe or recorder attends the review meeting and documents all the issues and defects, the problems and open points that were identified during the meeting. So it's the kind of responsibility. For example, we all are having the scrum master role. In some of the projects, it is not defined, but mostly industries and mostly companies now following, we are having one scrum master. Okay, so maybe that role will be assigned to that scrum master for this scribe or recording the things whenever we are having any meeting. So this is called as scribe or recorder who is actually recording the things whenever we are having this review thing. An additional role not normally associated with reviews is that of the tester. Testers have a particular role to play in relation to document reviews. So if someone will ask you, tester is involved in the review meeting, so definitely yes, because it's not like we will only test the code after, we'll not only test the project after the code is developed. We actually test it after the document is developed, requirement document, or maybe wherever required, we will provide our suggestions or our views. So this is the static testing. Now, this is the check of understanding, like identify 3 benefits of reviews. So we have already checked that it will save the cost of the project, time also, and we will find the defects at the early stage. So many things are, so many benefits are there of that review meeting. Now, what happens during the planning phase of a review? So we have already discussed it. And after that, who manages like the review process? So this is very important. You have to provide the answer by checking the question only, by checking the options only. Who manages the review process? So mainly the answer will be author, definitely. You will get this kind of question. You will not get both the options in the same, like maybe you will get the review leader and author both the option, but most probably you will get either author or either review leader. If you'll get the only option as author or the only option as review leader, then you have to choose it accordingly. Or if you'll get both the option, then you have to always choose as author. Okay. Now we have seen the stages of review. Now we will see the type of reviews. Okay. So just remember from this diagram, low to high. Okay, so this is the level of formality. So what element is having higher level of formality? It's always be inspection. So this kind of question you might be get, you'll get four options and you have to choose who is having the more level of formality. So answer will be inspection. So the first formality level is informal, then we'll be having the walkthrough, then technical review, then inspection. Informal is the first thing we know, like it will be having the lower level of formality. Then we'll be having the walkthrough meeting. So we will be having this walkthrough. After that, we'll be having the technical review, and inspection is the more formal process. So we'll see definitely in the later slide like what all these are. So till now, are you able to understand the stages and the roles and responsibility, who is doing what?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Yes, we understand.
Okay. So now we'll see this formality of review. So just remember this diagram, you will get this kind of question. Okay. Now this is the detailed explanation. Informal review, least formal key characteristic. There is no formal process underpinning the review. So when we were like uh, checking that first or second slide, in that this formal word has come, and I told you like in this mainly when we are having the less time and we are not having any kind of formal meetings and all, then we'll be following this informal review. There's no formal process underpinning the review. The review may be documented, but this is not required. Many informal reviewers are not documented. So that I already told you, it is not required to document everything under this informal review. There may be some variations in the usefulness of the review depending on the reviewer. Example, the reviewer does not have the technical skills, but it's just valuable to check quickly and ensure that the document makes sense. So we mainly when we are doing the informal review, when we are not having the time, so we will just check the things and we'll start the coding. The main purpose is to find defects, and this is an inexpensive way to achieve some limited benefit. The review may be implemented by pair programming, where one programmer reviews the code of other pair programmer, or by a technical lead reviewing designs and code. So what we are doing, actually we are not checking the requirement documents, or we are not doing any kind of meeting here. After developing the code, they are just reviewing the code by its peer. And maybe if we are having less time, then two or three developers, we will just develop the code, and the technical lead will just review the code and proceed ahead. So this is a kind of informal review. Now we are having the second level, which is the walkthrough. So always remember, after the informal review, walkthrough will come. The meeting is led by the author of the document under review and attended by members of the author's peer group. Review sessions are open-ended and may vary in practice from quite informal to very formal. So in the walkthrough, we are having this author who is reviewing, who is conducting those meetings. So as we are having the kickoff meeting now, we are having this walkthrough kind of meeting also. So it's a part of this formal process. It's not informal, it's the formal, in which the author is the main person and who is deciding everything and conducting the meetings. Preparation by reviewers before the walkthrough meeting, production of a review report or a list of findings, and appointment of a scribe who's not the author are all optional components that are sometimes present. So in walkthrough, it is not important that every role should be available. For example, maybe scribe is not available, only that author or 2 or 3 persons are available to conduct that meeting. So that they are saying the main purpose are to enable learning about the content of the document under review, to help team members gain an understanding of the content of the document and to find defects. Walkthrough typically explore scenarios or conduct dry runs of code or process. So this is very main punchline of walkthrough. In walkthrough, mainly we are conducting dry run of code or the process. So this kind of line you will get, and you have to choose the right option. So answer will be walkthrough. You will get a question like where we'll conduct the dry run of code. So you have to always choose the option as walkthrough. Okay. So walkthrough is the same which we have learned in the formal stages, but it's a kind of thing where it is not necessary that everyone should be available. But yeah, author is the main person who should be available, and whatever team members are available in the walkthrough meeting now, they have to provide their defects and everything, and author will be document those things, and he will correct them and pass the information again. So this is the walkthrough. Now we'll be having the next level, which is the technical review. Technical reviews are documented and use a well-defined defect detection process that includes peers and technical experts. So as the name suggests, you have to remember in the technical review, more technical persons will be involved. In the walkthrough, it is not necessary, but in the technical review, it is necessary that like more technical persons will be involved. The review is usually performed as a peer review without management participation and is ideally led by a trained moderator who's not the author. So here in this technical review, mainly it is the reviews usually performed as a peer review without management participation and is ideally led by a trained moderator who is not the author. So who's that? If it is not the author, it always will be a review leader. Okay, so they have just confused us, but we have to remember, like in the technical review, review leader will be present, or who will review everything and end the process. Okay, reviewers prepare for the review meeting optionally using checklist and prepare a review report with a list of findings. So that is the same, we are just checking the documents which we have defined, and after that we'll be just what we are doing, we are just documented the defects or findings. So these are the main things which we are doing in this technical review. Technical reviews may vary in practice from the quite informal to very formal and have a number of purposes, including discussion, decision making, evaluation of alternatives, finding defects, solving technical problems, and checking conformance to specification and standards. So in the technical review, mainly we are checking the technical things. For example, we are having the kind of technical document or the technical architectural design for the server, these kind of thing. So these kind of things we'll be checking under this technical review. So more technical persons will be involved in this. Now most formal, which is inspection. So inspection are led by a trained moderator who is not the author and usually involve peer examination of document. Individual inspectors work within defined role. So in the inspection, there will be multiple individual inspectors. So the inspection process is formal based on rules and checklist and uses entry and exit criteria. So it's not required to use the entry and exit criteria and technical review and in walkthrough, but in inspection it is required. We will be having the entry and exit criteria, so just remember this. Pre-meeting preparation is essential, which would include reading of any source document to ensure consistency. An inspection report with a list of findings is produced, which includes metrics that can be used to aid improvements to the process, as well as correcting defects in the document under review. See, it is not important like we have just checked that in every process we have to prepare one report at the end, whatever the defects we have found, how much time it will take, and everything. So it is not necessarily required to make that report in this technical review or walkthrough, but in inspection, it is very important to provide entry criteria, exit criteria, and prepare that report document. After the meeting, a formal follow process is used to ensure that corrective action is completed or and timely. The main purpose is to find defect and process improvement may be a secondary purpose. So here the main purpose is to find the defects. The process improvement is maybe a secondary purpose. So this is not required to remember. You just have to remember these things which I explained, like the entry and exit criteria and the formal review report. So we are doing these things in inspection. In reality, the lines between the review process often get blurred, and when is seen as a technical review in one company may be seen as an inspection in another. So it depends, like maybe a technical person will be involved in technical review in one organization, and in another organization they are making him as a inspection leader. So this is depends on company to company. The above is the classic view of reviewers. The key for each company is to agree the objectives and benefits of the reviews, but they plan to carry out. So here we have reviewed the four process which you have to remember. First is informal, second is walkthrough. After that, we'll be having technical inspection, and the more formal review process is inspection, in which we have to document everything. Now these are the success factors. So this you can this is a kind of summary whatever we have learned. So they are just providing like what should be the success factors. So each review should have a clearly predefined and agreed objective, and the right people should be involved to ensure the objective is met. So they are just saying uh, I will explain it to you by my own. It's like success factors are those factors after the review meeting, we should be have something or we should be having any outcome of that review process. So that they are saying, for example, maybe you can say we will find the defects, but how many defects are quality defects or which are actually required to fix at the document level. So that may be a success factor. Second will be the timeline. It is not like we will take much more time in the review process. We should be having a time box thing, because we should be having a particular cost assigned to the project. So according to that, we have to review that meeting. After that, we'll be having many persons involved. So it should be decided properly, like who will be do what, and also like uh, it's the kind of any kind of we can say technical things are involved in the project, then definitely it should be reviewed morely from the technical person. So these are the things which we have to remember. And also the most important, the review report should be there so that it can be reviewed later for the next future work if we'll get a similar kind of work. Okay. So these are the things they are saying, like how many defects found, time taken to review or inspect, percentage of project budget used or saved. So this is the thing. Compare the differences between walkthrough and inspection. So you can clearly provide your comparison. Like in inspection, everything should be documented. It should involve the review leader, and also like we can say in inspection we'll be having a entry and exit criteria, but in walkthrough it is not necessary. In walkthrough it is not necessary, like we will be having everything documented. We will have to make the review report, but in inspection it is necessary. Name three characteristic of a walkthrough. So you can provide the things whatever you have learned, you can just revise that in the walkthrough. For example, author is present and reviewers are there. So these are the characteristic we are finding the defects in the walkthrough. Okay. Identify at least 5 success factors of a review, so that you can definitely provide when you'll see the options. Now they are providing static analysis by tools. So what kind of tools we are using? So these are the name of tools. A software model is an image of the final solution developed using techniques such as unified model language. So this is a kind of UML is a kind of tool which we are using in the static analysis. So mainly in the 6th chapter now you will see the kind of tools which we have to use. So in there we will learn about that. From the 3rd chapter you will not get a kind of question on the tools. You will get a question on these processes which we have learned. Okay. So identification, prevention of defects, that they are saying as a kind of static testing tool. So now what kind of defects we can found from this static testing is like referencing a variable with an undefined value. Okay. So now typical defects which we can get in under this static analysis, which can include referencing a variable with an undefined value. Example, using a variable as part of a calculation before the variable has been given a value. So it's a kind of code defect, maybe it's a kind of code defect, or maybe it's a kind of normal document defect as well. For example, you are defining a kind of value uh, to a particular thing, and you are not defining that thing previously. You're just explaining that thing, but you have not defined what is that actual thing is. So it's a kind of defect because it's having a confusion. For example, you're just providing the things about the entry criteria or exit criteria, but you're not defined in the document the term as entry criteria or exit criteria previously. So it's a kind of defect in the requirement document. Or in the code perspective, it's like you will be having a variable and it's having a value, but you have not defined that value and you are just using that variable. So it's a kind of defect in terms of code. Inconsistent interface between modules and components. Example, module X requests 3 values from module Y, which has only 2 outputs. So it is saying like we are having the 2 modules defined in the document, module A and module B. Module B is having only 2 output. Okay, and we want to use that module B in module we want to use that module B in module A. Okay, but uh, module B is having two output and we want to use three output in module A. So how it can be possible? Like module B should be having the three output, then only we can use the three output of module B in module A. So it's a kind of defect. Third example is like variables that are never used. We have just defined the variable. For example, we have defined the entry criteria, but we have not explained what should be the entry criteria. We have defined the we can say author, but we have not defined who should be the author. So it's a kind of variable, or we can say we have defined the variable x, but we have not defined its value. We have not used it anywhere in the document. So what is the use of that? Okay, this is not strictly an error, but if a programmer declares a variable in a program and does not use it, there is a chance that some intended part of program has inadvertently been omitted. So they are saying, like, in terms of code, you have defined the variable but you have not used it. So it's not a problem, but it is just using the memory in the program, and we have just defined it but we have not used it. So, but if a programmer declares a variable in a program and that does not use it, there's a chance that some intended part of the program has inadvertently been omitted. So, if that variable is not defined properly, then maybe that programmer has, we can say, missed that particular program because they have just defined it, but they have not used it. Unreachable or dead code means sometimes what developers do, they are just providing the code and they have just commented it. They are not exactly executing that code. So in that case, it is like it's a kind of unreachable or dead code. We are not using it, but we have just defined it. So that kind of thing should not be there. Programming standards violation example: if the standard is to add comments only at the end of the piece of code, but there are notes throughout the code, this would be a violation of standards. So they are saying, like, there may be a situation you just have to provide the comments at the end of the code, but you are providing the comments at each line, and at each variable you are just defining your comments. It is not required, but you are just doing it. So this kind of errors, this is not a kind of error, but maybe you can provide your input, like why we have provided these comments throughout the code, even though it is not required, because it is unnecessarily consuming the memory. Now, next is like security vulnerabilities. Example, password structures that are not secure. You are just providing the password and you're not securing it. So this kind of issue can found. Syntax violation of code and software models. Example, incorrect use of the programming or modeling language. So you have a defined structure, like you have to use it in that way only, but what coders will do, they have just using it in their own way. So that will also not be good. Static analysis tools at the greatest value when used during component and integration testing. This will normally involve their use by developers to check against predefined rules or development standards, and by designers during software modeling. So now they are defining this static testing in terms of developers and designers. So developers are having previously defined things by which we can check the standard of code is meeting or not, and designers will use this static testing as a kind of thing, like design is properly developed or not before starting the actual code. So, or maybe we can say we are having the UI designer, right? Who are just providing that UI component, designing, but before that they have just made the structure and providing the UI component, what should be there. For example, username should be display here, password should be display here, and login button should be display here. So they can just use this static technique or static kind of document to check the design is proper or not. A static analysis tool runs automatically and reports all defects it identifies, some of which may be insignificant and require little or no work to correct, whilst others could be critical and need urgent correction. So they are saying like maybe some errors are very small and some defects are not required to fix at on urgent basis. We can fix it later as well when code is actually developed, but maybe some are very important and need to be fixed. For example, it should be defined that your application should support this kind of operating version, but you have defined the wrong operating system version in your document, then definitely it will be a very big issue. So it should be that part should be fixed in the document at the starting itself. So you have to fix it at earliest level. This is a kind of example. Now, okay, these defects therefore require strong management to ensure that the full benefit is obtained from using the tool in the first place. So they are just saying this. Now, check of understanding what is static analysis is looking for. It's mainly for checking uh, as an individual, mainly for the document level, or for the programmers for the code level. They can just use it to check the code, whatever they have developed from the predefined structure or predefined standards, it is meeting or not. And for the designers, like they are also having a predefined rules before making any design document, or we can say a design structure, so they can use it there. Now name the 5 benefits of static analysis that you can always define. What is the name of the type of defect that related to password check? So what is the name of that type of defect that relates to password check? So you can read it this slide and just provide the answer. Okay, so definitely you'll get a kind of option in your exam, like what is the tool which we are using. So for the password check, you will get a kind of tool which you are using. This will be defined in 6th chapter as well, but here you can read it again and just provide the try to provide the answer. So mainly they are using the security related tool for that. Okay, for checking the password structure. Now this is the summary, and in this way, like we have just ended this chapter. So it is not very big, the chapter is small and you will get around 3 or 4 questions from this chapter, but it's a kind of theoretical thing. So you just have to read it and you just have to remember everything, so that your 3 to 4 questions will be correct in a straight way. So that way this chapter is important, because there are not so many things in this chapter, but yeah, if you will just remember these key points which I have explained it to you, then definitely your all questions will be correct. Okay, so this is main. And apart from that, Jayanti, just like read that second chapter again and try to solve the questions and answers chapter. I'm just again opening it so that I will provide you that information which I forgot. Okay, so this thing I forgot to tell you. like this psychology of testing. Okay. So, team, you just have to remember these key points here, like in terms of independence of testing now, or the psychology of testing, who is having the more independent authority. So you just have to remember in this sequence only. Those who wrote the code have the less number of less independency, and after that, members of the same development team, members of the different group, independent test team, and members of a different company, a testing consultancy or outsource. So it is like those who are more outside, or those who are more not related to our project or product, are having the more independency. Okay, so might be you'll get that kind of question, like who is having the more independency, or more in terms of more psychology of testing. So you have to choose the option as wisely, like uh, who is the more outsider person now, those are having the more independency. You just have to remember these points. So why this is like, see, who will write the code will not find more defects or more vulnerability, or we can say more fault things in the product. Okay, but who's outside of the organization, maybe he is having the more views, or we can say he's having the more independency, and he can check the things and will let you know the fault things in better way. So that's why they are just defining the psychology, because if we develop the code, then definitely will not find more defects in our own code, and testers will also not find the more defects in the code, because they know only that part. But maybe as an outside point of view, they will provide you the more suggestions in your project or product. So that's why they are having the more independency. So that's the part which I missed. I just want to explain it. Okay. And in more elaborative way, I will explain it you in the fifth chapter, because here they have explained it in more detailed way, but in the first chapter they have just provided uh, this information, but mainly we have to learn it in the fifth chapter. Okay.
Okay.
Now